Hello, this is just going to be a quick, hopefully, video about why I like positive psychology. Um, for one, if you look at the start of psychology as a history, it was not based on clinical diseases or any type of pathology. It was founded, I guess it's like up for debate, but I would say the Renaissance was the start of American psychology, with John Locke and some of those early thinkers, Thomas Hobbes, some of those people. Fechner, and it was all based on a revolution from the church and religious ideals, and it was man's self-discovery. They were tired of people telling them who they were, and they wanted to discover who they were. And I think that in this age of internet, we've often lost our curiosity for figuring out who we are and what we want. There's so many answers out there, and there's so much information telling us what to think that we don't necessarily question. Um, and so psychology is not based on disease. It's based on what am I? What is it to be a human? And what positive psychology is saying not how can I treat a mental illness, or what can we do for people who are hurting. It's someone who is relatively stable who wants to improve their lives. How can we make better best, basically? And so I like that because I think it's in our innate nature to question, and that some of that has been lost, and that we should fall back to that. And then I think too, probably my most important point, or what I consider to be the main point, is based on this, which is our normal distribution. So in statistics, social sciences, physics, all that good stuff, if the mean is right here, which is the average of everything, then most behavior is going to fall within one standard deviation. So most of the stuff is going to fall around the mean, basically. 68% is going to fall really close to the mean. 95% is going to be 2 standard deviations away, so that comprises all of this. And then on this outer edge, you have like 2% for extremely deviant behavior. And this is basically the reference point for all statistics. It's not a real statistic if it doesn't have a normal bell curve, or so they say. So what I think we can derive from this is, okay, if our standard of behavior is, it's okay to say, I'm not as bad as that person, or I don't need to be fixed, I'm not like them, then we're making it acceptable for people who have a little bit outside that normal 68% of the population. It's going to be much worse than them for them. And then for those other 4% of the population who are like super, super good perfectionists, or super, super bad people on this side, they're going to have these extremes where, it's basically what I'm trying to say is that we have to focus on the whole. Just because 68% of the population is relatively okay saying, oh, I don't need help, or I'm fine where I'm at, that's an expression of a part of the whole. So what that means to me is, you have to look at the whole picture. If we're allowing people to say, I'm fine where I'm at, then think about the people who are not within the 68%. It's a trickle-down effect. It's going to be worse for them. So think about drug addicts. Who might fall within, I would say, like the second block, just because it's not like super, super abnormal to be a drug addict, or super abnormal to have like something like an eating disorder. But, they're very debilitating. We're enabling the people who are at the top. If our average is saying, it's okay to be substandard, then it's just going to be way worse off for these outer outliers. So I think that with positive psychology, if we take the initiative to say, hey, I'm not broken, but I need to be tweaked, I need to make these adjustments, don't do it for you. Do it so it trickles down among your family. Do it so that the people who are outside of this normal behavior or outside of this normal way of thinking will get better. Do it so that if we raise our standard, if we raise our mean, then this behavior on the outer rims is going to be raised as well. So these people who are probably, these people within the standard deviation of 2, they might go seek help. But probably if you're out here and you have a belief system that's just completely based on these false beliefs and you're completely deviant, you're probably not going to seek help and you're going to struggle in the dark. And even some of the people outside of this, they may not seek help. So if we raise what the standard is, I think that we'll see a trickle down effect of that. And that leads into my third point, which is the brokenness I feel of our mental health system. I had a nursing clinical where I went to almost every single mental hospital in the region of the Tri-County area of Charleston, South Carolina. Then I've done some personal work with some nonprofits and things like that. And so I've gotten a really good taste for the mental health care system, at least in South Carolina, which is kind of lower ranked compared to other states. So it may not be the best frame of reference, but hey, I've gotten pretty good taste for things. And this was private practice, this was rehabilitation centers, this was actual hospitals, some specialty clinics. I just got a really good taste for things. There's a lot of rules that are just not conducive to healing, and I understand why they exist, but I just don't think that there is really a range of help for people in these facilities who need it, because you're taking people, especially in inpatient rehab facilities, you're taking people outside of their reality, putting them in a box, and not teaching or creating a new frame of living. You're not incorporating their family, sometimes for privacy reasons, sometimes just because it's understaffed, underfunded, whatever. Things like no touch rules, where you can't, hug someone or touch them. In some of the mental hospitals, they don't really have enough staff to really have good sessions or to have good talks, and then they have all these rules to generalize people, and they can't really get into the specifics of these people's problems. I would look at people's charts and they'd have 4 or 5 different diagnoses with each admission because it was something presenting was different than the last time, and that's just because you only can diagnose someone based on what you know, and who knows people better than the people they interact with. So what I'm saying is positive psychology is good because if we need to help the people who are already good, and we need to make them understand how to be better so they can help the people who are a little down in their life. They can be stronger for the people who need it. They can be that support system. And I think that, like I said, it'll trickle down. I'm sorry that it's a little bit flustered. I didn't exactly put my thoughts together before. But my last point I would like to just mention is the fourth reason for positive psychology, I think is really awesome, is because, we should not be facetious enough to say that we're perfect or that, we're the best that we should be. There's always something that you could do to grow. And I believe that most people aren't broken. They just need to be tweaked. There's an adjustment. You might have a false belief that just completely cripples your life. If, for instance, you're a really hard worker and you have a really great work ethic, you have a really great morality code where you treat people very kindly, but you believe that you don't deserve success, or you believe that you're not good enough, then, you're never going to allow your brain the possibility to give you that success. Your subconscious and your unconscious mind is not going to be thinking of ways to be successful. It's not going to think about being happy. You're not going to ever fully have that happiness because you're not creating parameters for that reality in your brain. I think that we're not programmed innately. You're not born with optimal brain functioning. Our brains are homeostatic controls, meaning that they bring things back to normal. If your normal is, something not good, like being anxious, then, your brain's going to keep functioning on that. Many people who have problems, or many people who just are struggling in life, it's because they have conditioned themselves with these false beliefs that are just not conducive to the reality they want to live in. I think that everyone can benefit from personal growth, some self-exploration, and that positive psychology will inevitably help trickle down into these lower populations, and by increasing the knowledge and bettering the lives and just raising the standard for the whole population. So yeah, give me a comment or tell me what you think or what you like to hear, because I love talking about this stuff.